2020 was an unprecedented year, no thanks to the coronavirus outbreak, as the global economy was suspended in second quarter and most of third quarter 2020 to safeguard human health. Oil prices plummeted to levels never seen before, airlines were grounded, hotels shut down, and all forms of congregational economic activities halted. This triggered a global recession across advanced and low-income countries as GDP growth numbers printed negative amid demand and supply shocks. At surge, the IMF estimates global GDP to contract to minus 4.4% in 2020. Thanks for joining us today on TV and Business Daily. I am Chiwendo. Like I said yesterday, we shall continue the discussion on the Nigerian Economic Outlook 2021. Before we go on with that, let's look at the business stories for today. The Naira dipped slightly after it exchanged for 474 Naira per dollar at the parallel market on Monday. It had earlier exchanged for 473 per dollar for most of last week. At investors and exporter forex window, it closed at 388 Naira per dollar after it had reached a high of 450 Naira per dollar. The country's external reserve rose by 930 million per dollar from $35.37 billion per dollar as of December 31st, 2020 to $36.30 billion per dollar as of January 14, 2021, figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria had revealed. According to the Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, the central bank had continued to ensure that cheap exchange rate stability. That also continued to ensure that foreign exchange was made available to manufacturers and end users who needed the fund for their medical trips, school fees payments, travel allowances, among others. About 43 million national identity numbers have been submitted by telecommunications companies to the National Identity Management Commission for verification in order to have them registered with their respective subscriber identification models. Also, as the deadline for telephone subscribers with national identity numbers to register their SIMs with identity numbers elapsed today, January 19, 2021, operators have said that SIMs with unlinked submitted national identity numbers would not be blocked. It was also gathered that so far the National Identity Management Commission had been able to provide about 45 million national identity numbers, as it was able to register about 2 million people in the last 1 month after the federal government ordered citizens to register their SIMs with valid national identity numbers. Speaking on behalf of the firm, the Chairman Association of Licensed Telecommunication Operators of Nigeria, Gbenga Adebayo, said the numbers were sent to the NIMSC for verification in order to ensure that numbers were harmonized with their respective SIMs. The Nigerian equity market on Monday commenced the weekly activities on a negative trajectory as investors continue to take profit to increase capital gains. Key market indicators: the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index declined by 0.23% as bargain hunters continue to take profits from gains recorded last week. The market breadth, however, closed positive with 22 losers against 35 gainers. Consequently, the all-share index dipped 93.76 basic points or 0.23% to close at 1,082.38 index points as against 41,176.14 recorded the previous trading section, while market capitalization of equities depreciated by 40 billion naira from 21.53 trillion naira the last Friday to 21.49 trillion naira as market sentiment remained on negative territory. Meanwhile, a turnover of 1.01 billion shares exchanged in 7,404 deals was recorded in the day's trading. About 300,000 metric tons of maize will be released in February into the Nigerian market from strategic anchors under the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and this should lead to a crash in the cost of maize. National President Maize Association of Nigeria, Bello Abubakar, said in Abuja on Monday that the release of the maize from strategic anchors would reduce the cost of maize from 155,000 naira per metric tons Another operator in the maize value chain, Edwin Uche, expressed optimism about the price crashing to 120,000 naira per metric ton in the next couple of days. Abubakar said the plan released followed moves made by critical stakeholders working with relevant governments and security agencies to put an end to the speculative activities of middlemen. The MAN president stated that with the release of 3,000 metric tons in February 2021, it was expected that the prices of maize in the Nigerian market would drop significantly. And that's the business update on television Nigerian. I am Chiwando Osisiago. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
My name is Chiwendo Osisiago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
Thanks for staying with us again on the program, and if you're just joining us, it's TVN Business Daily. Like I stated earlier, we shall be discussing Nigerian's Economic Outlook 2021, and my guest is in the studio. He is the CEO, LTS Royal Limited, and also a business finance consultant, Mr. Like Olateru Olabegi. You're welcome to TVN Business once more.
Thank you very much. How are you, Chinwe?
I'm fine. And this is the first time I'm seeing you this year. I would like to say Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much. Only that I didn't get any Christmas or New Year hampers from yourself or TVN, so.
Okay.
But it's okay.
All right. Maybe after the program.
Not a problem.
All right. Thank you very much. So now we're talking about the Nigerian Economic Outlook 2021. You obviously know that 2020 was full of so many things, challenges, from the coronavirus and then the SARS and all that things that happened and made people lost their jobs and all that things. So now, what are you looking at? What are you expecting now in 2021?
I am expecting 2021 to be a year of difference, to be a year of creativity, to be a year where people begin to consolidate the gains of thinking differently. Because as we all know, you go on CNN, you go on all the major news outlets, you see what the news is. So nobody needs to be told what happened in 2020. 2020 was a bad year for many people. However, the bad things that happened in 2020 have been more celebrated than the good things that happened in 2020. Because despite the fact that airlines were shut down, hospitality business was shut down, other businesses suffered and all of that, there were businesses in 2020 that cleaned out in the year 2020. Online businesses, for example, some utility businesses, for example. And I believe that as we begin to move away from the initial shocks of the global pandemic, which caused everyone to run helter-skelter, shut down schools, shut down churches and all of that, we are now thinking, or most people should now be thinking, okay, so what if the same thing happens in the year 2021? What are we going to do? Are we going to fold our arms? Are we going to roll over and play dead? For me, I think that businesses and other players around the world, because of the initial shocks have now receded, people are making plans better, how to move forward. People suddenly realize that, we don't have to go to offices to work. We can work from home. We can have online meetings. You're part of global meetings. For example, I was part of a global meeting, investors meeting in early January, and it was held online. I mean, typically it was something that happened in Hong Kong, but normally people would have to travel from all over the world and all of that. But we didn't have to do that. Everybody just got online. Hey, how are you? How are you? Hey, sorry, how are you? How are you doing with the pandemic and all of that? So in 2021, I see optimism. I see people coping better with the pandemic, because human beings naturally find a coping mechanism. So people are thinking better how to do things better in the year 2021. So I think 2021 will be much better than the year 2020.
Well, you think the happenings in 2020 actually filtered into 2021?
Yes, of course. Because if you want to say that the things have returned to normal, of course not. Things have not returned to normal, but that's only, on a global level. I go around and I see that most businesses have actually returned to normal. I see places where they're supposed to be having COVID-19 restrictions or protocols. None of that is happening. So it shows you the mindset of the people. So there was the initial fears that, people may die, blah, blah. Yeah, people are dying, surely. But having overcome the initial fears, people are going back to their businesses. Now, in terms of will what happened in the year 2020 happen again? Will the effects of the pandemic roll over into this year? Well, nobody knows. However, what I do know is that people's responses in 2021 will surely be better than in the year 2020. For example, the government is doing its own part. But businesses also will be doing their own part to ensure that if we've suffered revenues in the year 2020, we don't suffer revenues in the year 2021. So I believe that in the year 2021, the effects of the pandemic will be better mitigated by most people.
But okay, according to you, will you believe that the government is actually doing more to ensure that what happened in 2020 doesn't repeat itself in the year 2021? For example, now the schools have resumed. Do you think it was a good one from the government?
Well, the government will always do what it needs to do. For example, the budget for the year 2021 is the biggest budget Nigeria has ever signed into law. It is 13 trillion naira. And obviously it's been dubbed the economic recovery and resilience plan, with the objective of accelerating Nigeria's economic recovery post 2020 recession. Let me paint a picture for you. Unemployment rate currently is 27%. Okay. People have lost jobs. People have lost revenue. Even the government has lost revenues. Oil revenues for 2020 was just 2.1 trillion. Yet Nigeria wants to spend 13 trillion in the year 2021. So you ask the question, how does this country want to spend that amount of money? I'll tell you how. 2020 we made 7.8 trillion naira in revenues. But we want to spend 13 trillion in the year 2021. How? We want to borrow 5 trillion. How? Okay. So is that good or not? That's a subject for another day. But what I'm trying to answer is that the government clearly is trying to do what it can to stimulate economic recovery so that we can have a better Nigeria, in terms of economically speaking. Because that has taken a hit, and the government is doing its best to do that. There are several new funds that the government has released since the pandemic started. There was the fund from BOI, there was a support fund, there was another fund which was approved through CBN. There's been a few intervention funds which have been released recently just to push, push people to keep going back into the market and creating value. However, the question is, are these efforts sufficient? No. First of all, if you take a look at the fact that we're going to have to borrow 5 trillion naira just to finance. If you place that against the backdrop of the fact that in the year 2020 we are going to spend 3 trillion naira to service our previous debts. Let me say that again. 3 trillion naira we're going to spend to service our debts this year. If we made 7.89 last year, pick your calculator and check it. So Nigeria is spending around 39.5% of last year's revenue to service its, to do debt service. And yet we want to borrow additional 5 trillion naira. So for me, the intent is good, but the results is not sustainable. Because at the end of the day, there is an end in sight to these borrowings. You cannot continue to borrow forever. There will come a date when the debtors, the creditors will say, "Sorry, we can't lend you any more money. You defaulted on the last ones you paid. On the last ones you took." So in the long run, we should be looking further away. I mean, this is my opinion, for the government. We should be looking more and more away from borrowings and doing what we can to stimulate Nigerians by themselves to go into business. The role of government is not to give people money. I see some young people saying, the government has not given us this and that. Look, the role of government is not to give you money, to hand you out money. Let's go and collect 30,000 from Empower. How many people can they employ with the Empower? The business of government is to protect, lives and property, to provide an enabling environment for people to run their businesses, to encourage young people to get into the act of solving problems and creating value. Because if this country is going to recover, it's not going to rest on the government. It is going to rest on the young people in this country. It's going to rest on Nigerians like you and me. It is going to come from creating value and generating money. Let me give you a reason. Let me do a simple analysis for you that most Nigerians are not familiar with. Since 2014, the Naira has depreciated in value by at least 58%. 66% that's the official rate. 66% if you take into account the black market rate. In May 2014, the Naira was exchanging at 161 Naira to the dollar. Today it is how much? In your report you said 373. Yeah. That's the official rate, right? Sorry, the official rate is 379, but the black market rate which you quoted was 472. So that thing alone that you see right there is making most Nigerians poorer. If you had $1 million Naira in the year 2014, you could buy around $5,800, dollars. Today, your 1 million Naira cannot buy more than $2,000 in the black market. So that tells you that even as Nigerians have continued to work and create value, the economy is gradually declining. So why did I bring that up? It is important for people to understand that our dependence on imports is hurting Nigeria, is hurting Nigerians. When you earn your salary in this place, the value of your salary today is far less than what it was 2 years ago. Why? Because the Naira continues to depreciate. So government is having 2 trillion Naira in revenues from oil. And we claim to be, we're rich, we're great, we're big, we're good. No, sorry, we're poor now. We need to think of how to create more dollars. Because if you look around you, why is getting dollars more important? If you look around you in this room, or any of your viewers, look around you in any room that you are right now, 7 to 8 of every 10 items you see around you were imported. Those imported items came from dollars. So in Nigeria, dollar has become a commodity that must be secured. Now, remember your laws of economics, demand and supply. When the demand for a particular item increases and there is scarcity of that particular thing, what happens? Price increases. That's what's happening to us. So in summary, what we should be thinking of today, what the government should be doing, is encouraging young people to begin to start businesses that will generate dollars. Because saying, we want to create jobs like they're doing. Well, we want to create jobs. Yes, create jobs to do what? No, we don't need you to create jobs. We need you to educate people. We need you to infuse young people with skills that they need to create dollars. And I'm not saying we should dollarize the economy, but our economy is already dollarized. You want to buy this phone? It's dollarized because it has to come in from somewhere, imported. So what am I saying? For example, you have freelance websites all over the world. You have freelance websites where you can learn skills, where your skills are useful to people all over the world. You can sell those skills and earn dollars. When you earn dollars into Nigeria, even you that you are earning it, you make more Naira. Because when you exchange it, you get more Naira and then you can invest in the economy. So for me, I believe that the focus of the government, apart from, all the basic things that we do, we're spending money on this and that, we should focus now on empowering young people to learn skills that will help them to create value in the Nigerian economy.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Leke. Now you talked about, governments borrowing money and all. So now to ask that, what's the implication of this borrowing money in the economy?
Okay, so First of all, there are different sides to it. The first part is Nigeria is borrowing money because we are unable to pay our old borrowings. If you take income of 7.8 trillion and you want to spend money on different sectors of the economy, so first of all, you cannot spend on new things until you pay your old stuff. So part of the reasons why we're borrowing is because for us to have enough money to spend on the important things in the economy, pay salaries, capital expenditure, roads, this and that, we need to first of all honor our obligations. So, but what's the objective of the borrowing? Well, the government wants to reflate the economy. You know, in most countries of the world, when governments want to improve the economy, for example, after the devastation of 2020, what the government does is to spend more money. I mean, it happens all over the world. In the US, in Europe and in the West, they call it quantitative easing. What it simply means is that they are printing money. When you hear quantitative easing, they are printing more money and handing it out. But guess what quantitative easing does? Spending more money to ease the challenges in the economy. What it does is to increase inflation. Inflation in Nigeria is at an all-time high. So, borrowing is a double-edged sword. Borrowing can help you to grow quicker. But borrowing can also be a millstone around the neck of the borrower. If you are borrowing, you must match your borrowing to your income. Once you continue to borrow at unsustainable levels, where you're unable to service your borrowings, then that borrowing will take you down. Nigeria is borrowing a lot from China, which is not a bad thing in itself. But if you look at stories around Africa, and I don't want to mention any country, but there are a couple of countries in Africa now that are losing their national assets to the creditor. Because if you can't pay, definitely, they will collect their money now somehow. So is it that they will call in your sovereign guarantee, or they will take the asset which they financed. So we need to be very careful with this borrowing thing. Nigeria we're trying to finance roads, we're trying to finance all of that. And yeah, it's good. But there must be a limit to it. And that's why I said, you see, look at countries that are developed. Is it that borrowing is the only thing they need to do? Look at small countries now. Look at Singapore. Look at the Asian tigers, Singapore, South Korea. What do? We can follow from their examples. What they do is to knuckle down, teach their young people, they're educated. Focus on educating people, not necessarily sending them to school. Create technical institutes, create vocational centers, create skill acquisition centers, where people are not just there, because they call them to come and collect 10,000 naira stipend. No, but where they are going to learn real skills. We should be investing in those things, investing in research, investing in the things that will enable us to create these phones by ourselves, that will enable the other guys who are doing these things. And that reminds me, I'm not biased to any tribe in Nigeria, but I have a particular respect for the Igbo people. Igbo people are particularly industrious. They are like the Jews in the sense that you can't put them into a box and say, there's recession, so you will not make money. For where an Igbo man knows you must eat. He knows, Chinwe, you must buy that earring before you come here. The eyeshadow, all of those things that you're using, you must buy them. The Igbo man says, okay, people have this need. I have to solve them. This is how we should begin to think. How do we teach our young people to think of solving problems so that they don't wait on government for stipends? Government trying to solve everything will not work. Teaching a man how to fish is different from giving him fish. Trying to spend your way out of a recession and spending money you don't have is only going to get Nigeria into further trouble. So what we need to be focusing on more is get our own people locally. We have a huge population, 200 million and counting. Begin to develop pockets of space where these guys are empowered to create value. Are they processing gari into something? Are they processing cassava into something? If you go to China, you go to Hong Kong, you go to Thailand, you will see 1 million things they can do with cassava. Wow. When I traveled to the US a few years back, I went to Chinatown, I went to a Chinese restaurant, and I had never seen in my life all the kind of variations they made with chicken. chicken in honey sauce, chicken in pepper, chicken in tomato sauce, chicken in sugar, chicken in this and that, chicken in, I mean, all sorts of crazy things. Only chicken. There were up to 9, what do they call those things? Receptacles. Just for chicken. Chicken this, chicken that, chicken this, chicken that, chicken. I'm like, what's wrong? Curry chicken, marinated chicken, something. I mean, I'm like that. So in Nigeria, we have all of those things. But guess what? Our young people are looking for, until they give me job, I'm looking for job. Job for what? You have a job already. I had a consultancy with an international, NGO until recently, because I stopped that to focus on my business. And I used to travel quite a bit around the northern parts. And you see huge expanses of land all over the place. You see young men who are sitting lounging. They are waiting. They are going out there to do rankadede to some people. When they can go into the farm, dig this thing, put in value there, and then when it's harvest time, you go harvest, you make money, you're a big boy. But we are waiting for the government. Especially in some parts of this country, because I don't want to sound biased, in some parts of this country, we have come to encourage young people to wait on the elders. Now, until the elders show them how to move, they cannot move. You have to seek permission before you do what is right. What's the meaning of that? That's why we're not progressing. In other parts of the world where things are working, young people don't wait for permission to do the right thing. They have a brainwave. They think about it. Oh, this thing is going to solve a problem. If I solve a problem, I solve my own problem first. Because you solve the problem, you solve your own money problem. You don't need anybody anymore. And you now can empower other people. You can hire other people. So spending by the government should be channeled appropriately.
Pretty true. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Leke. Okay, before we conclude, what do you think is the continuous impact of this COVID-19 on the economy?
I would rather not focus on the impact of the COVID-19. I would rather focus on what we can do about it. As you can tell, I am very passionate about creating value. And this is what I'll tell young Nigerians. Don't sit on social media and talk. Look around you. Find problems you can solve. The biggest names in this world, the biggest names anywhere, they solved problems. Either they were leaders because they inspired other people to do better, or they themselves solved problems. Don't sit on social media and be criticizing government. What are you yourself doing? What are you doing? What value are you creating? What problems are you solving? You just want somebody to send you data and you are pressing your phone. For what? So young Nigerians should realize that the government cannot save them. Nobody. The government cannot save you. Many people, for example, for me, I'm starting $1 million business this year from an inspiration. I was working on a project for 8 years, got the breakthrough for that business in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic. Oh. And I've seen stories of many people who also have the same story. For example, you stop people from going to the market, right, during the pandemic. But that means that they only go to the market on Wednesday and Saturday. Okay, fine. What are you doing on Thursday? And you are just sitting there waiting for Wednesday. Bros, what is wrong with you? Do something. Think of what you can do. So you don't have a job. That is your best time to create. Hunger, they bab you. Think. Put your mind to work. There's a man of God who said something a few years ago. He said, the reason God gave you a brain is so that you can allow him to rest. If God was to be making all decisions for us, he would not have given us a brain. So every time we need something, we'll go to him. But God gave you a brain and said, use that brain. That's what I'll say to young Nigerians. Create value. There are so many things you can do today. You can code, you can write programs, you can market online, you can do engineering stuff, you can do IT, you can do so many things. So anyone who chooses to sit down and be unengaged, that's his fault. So I encourage you guys, please look at what you can do. I mean, young people out there, look at what you can do, create value, and you will be paid for it. That's the way life works. There is nothing like something for nothing.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Leke. So finally now, what's your final take?
My final take, I already said it. But let me say something else.
Okay. Last
year, a group of young Nigerians sold their business for $200 million. They had a business called Paystack. Paystack had been around maybe 5 years, 6 years or so. 3 young Nigerians, they're in their 30s. They sold their business to a company in the US for $200 million. Ha! I sat down and said to myself, Licky, what have you been doing? Those are the kind of stories that should inspire us. What did they do? Young Nigerians were setting up online marketplaces, having trouble collecting payments. So these guys got around and said, we can solve this thing. Look, don't worry. When you set up your online store, we can receive your payments for you. And they're doing it for both online businesses and offline businesses. And they made a lot of money. If that company was in the US, that company would probably have sold for $1 billion. But because it's in Nigeria or Africa, there's generally less capital and all of that. But that should be an inspiration to anybody. $200 million can change anybody's life.
Definitely.
Anywhere in the world, that's a huge amount of money. Even if it's 30 million each one of them got, because they would have had backers who invested in their business. But even if it's 20 million that each one of them got for 6 years of work, is that not something? Imagine if they are sat down waiting for the government to come and give them work. So, my final word is this: create value. God and life will pay you handsomely.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Licky Olatere Olagbegi. You have said it to young Nigerians, and I hope they've heard you. Absolutely. Don't just sit down around the social media, but definitely create value so that God and life, as you said, will help them. Thank you for coming on TVN today.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. I learned 1 or 2 things from you today.
Right.
All right, and that's the much we have for you today on TVN Business Daily. I am Chiwendo Osisiago. And don't forget that you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook and YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Do have a wonderful day. Bye for now.